Good evening. Good evening. Okay, thank you. Welcome to our college planning meeting. I'm going to introduce the participants and sort of give you the agenda. Tonight we are very lucky to have with us two special guests. This is Brad Derschlag from Trinity University in Texas and Andrew Samuels from OSU here in Oklahoma. Both of these gentlemen are the representatives who work with Bishop Kelly students. So if you have questions about Trinity, if you have questions about OSU, these are the guys to ask. And if you don't know, I will introduce the college counselors. This is Jennifer Knapp. Mrs. Knapp has the beginning of the alphabet A through K. And I am Maureen Lawler, and obviously I have the end of the alphabet L through Z. And what we are going to do is let Brad and Andrew speak to you first and kind of give you all of the great college information that they possess for both public and private school. And then Mrs. Knapp and I are going to take it over and kind of give you what we refer to as the Bishop Kelly way. And that's how we do things here at Bishop Kelly, working with Andrew and Brad.
I'm going to hold the mic for now. My name's Andrew Samuels. I'll be your admissions counselor at Oklahoma State. I know I've probably met some of you, not most of you yet, so I'm sure we'll get there at some point. But just to talk about a little bit about our admissions process, our application opens up on July 1st. And so I'm just here to help walk you through that however I can. And so, if you ever have any questions for me, please let me know. I'm always happy to help. And I will definitely leave my information here tonight for everybody. But it kind of goes application fee, your high school transcript here from Bishop Kelly, test scores if you have them. We are test optional, so you don't have to have those. And then an optional essay component as well. And throughout the semester, I kind of, I will be at Bishop Kelly again and again, meeting with students one-on-one, giving talks like this, and just kind of helping you out however I can. And so Stillwater, for those of you who don't know, is about an hour and 20 minutes down the road, so pretty close to home, not too bad. We'd love to have you out for a visit as well. I will go ahead and turn it over to Brad real quick. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right back there? I don't want to be too loud, but this loud enough? Okay. My name is Brad Derschlag. I'm with Trinity University in San Antonio. This is my 11th year working in college admissions. Before this, I spent 11 years coaching college women's basketball. So whatever college your student's looking at, I probably know where the gym is and nearest Subway. Thank you all, first of all, for being here tonight. The admissions has changed. I graduated from college in 1999. I remember applying to schools. I was limited to how big our dining room table was. The Common Application had come on board, and it was maybe 50 schools. Now it's about 900 schools, meaning with one application, you can apply to several different colleges. So hopefully tonight we can answer some of the questions of, so I've heard, is it true, things like that. With my time at Trinity, so 11 years now, I've seen our acceptance rate go from 68% down to 28%. This year will probably be about 25%. I don't say that to brag. I say that to give context of there's ways to be admitted and to make yourself most competitive a candidate for colleges. And by doing that is being organized, number one. I think if junior Brad was sitting in the back, I probably would have been back there. My mom would have made me sit up here. I would say be organized, because there's going to be a lot of things that come at you fast. The other thing I'm going to tell you is check your emails. I can't tell you how many times, students, that we try to communicate with you all in a form that you all don't speak in. You all don't speak emails. Ms. Lawler and I set this thing up about 3 months ago. Do you know how many times we talked on the phone? How many times we texted? How many times we tweeted at each other? 0. We did it via email. Students, you're getting a lot of emails now. If I looked at your email, is it zeroed out, or is there a red number of unread emails? Unread? Who has unread? Raise your hand. Oh, your parents here. Never mind. Just nod, look at me. I will say this. The record was 12,000 unread emails. And he was a National Merit finalist. I had another student I asked, he said, oh, I just deleted my email and started a new one. And the counselor almost had a heart attack. Like, no, that's not what you do. I say that because if you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. Now we want you to visit the campuses. You're getting a lot of those. When the application opens in the summer, July 1st, August 1st, you're going to get a lot of apply, and then the visit. Are you sure you don't want to apply? I tell you that because if you stay on it, it'll make it a lot easier. Do they use school email or their own email? It depends. Whatever they want. Make sure you're checking it. If you really do want to unsubscribe from a school, if you have no desire to come to Trinity at all in San Antonio, it's okay to click unsubscribe. We're not going to be like Target saying, oh, I forgot this is recorded, or some place saying, are you sure? Right? So just know that, but also make sure you really do want to unsubscribe. The other tip I love giving families is set aside sacred time to talk about college. Whether that's Sunday evenings, that's Thursday afternoons, that's some time that you all are going to talk about this whole process. Because students, you have a life. You have things going on. You have homework. You have all this stuff going on. What's going to happen is, a parent's going to say, hey, I can't wait. I heard something great about Trinity. I can't wait to talk to you about it. Hey, we'll do that Thursday. But I also know if my mom said that, like, oh, I can't wait till Sunday to tell you about Trinity, what am I going to say? Let's talk about it now, right? But I think setting aside that time will alleviate some of those headaches too. Trinity, we're a small liberal arts and sciences school in San Antonio. We're about 2,500 students. What I think students really enjoy about Trinity is that you're not declaring your major till second semester sophomore year. So you come to Trinity, I guess all 650 incoming freshmen could be engineers. They're not. They could be theater majors. They're not. You kind of have your time to pick your pathway through your curriculum. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and found Trinity because I told my counselor I wanted a small school in a big city. He said you should try Trinity in Texas, and not being from Texas, I of course said there's no way I'm going there, and now I absolutely loved it. I think walking on campus is a really important part. You'll hear schools talk a lot about just visiting schools. Use the schools in your backyard to give you context. Walk around University of Tulsa, even if you have no desire to go there. Walk around OU, OSU, just get an idea of what you want. Think about what you loved about Bishop Kelly, and that will help in your college search too. How you have that connection with the professors. At Trinity, there's not a single teacher assistant on campus. So no TAs, graduate students. So juniors, you guys, your highest math, what are we in? Pre-calculus, maybe some algebra 2. Is that kind of where we are? Could you all teach freshman algebra? Maybe. Would it go well? I don't know. Maybe for some of y'all. So that's what happens at a school like us. Everything's taught by the full-time faculty. Questions? Yeah, a great question. So, and I'll talk about test optional too. Yeah, so when you apply to Trinity, we're on the common application, Apply Texas or Coalition. There's no preference of one over the other. Don't think because we're in Texas or some of the Texas schools, it looks better if you use Apply Texas. It doesn't, whatever one's the easiest for you. So when you apply, you're automatically considered for merit scholarship. That's going to be based on GPA and or test scores if you submit them. Talking about test optional, when you apply, you'll hear schools like us refer to the holistic review. So there's no assured admissions. So we're looking at everything. We're looking at your high school rigor and the grades you're taking. The number one indicator of a high school student's success in college is your high school GPA. We also like to see how you end high school is typically how you start college. So we like seeing that upward trend. With the test optional, this last year our ACT was about a 31. Now also the last couple of years, 50% of our students have not submitted test scores. I am not good at math, but if you have 50% not reporting, it's just going to go higher on that. Average GPA, we're about a 3.7, so again, not good at math, half A's and half B's on your transcripts, a 3.5. For our application, transcript, test scores, your essay, your letters of recommendation, and then your extracurricular, the activities you're involved with. Students, with your activities, brag. Make sure you brag. We don't know what you do unless you tell us. I know we're all told not to, but this is the time you need to brag to tell us about those things. Your letters of recommendation, your counselor will tell us how you are involved in the community. Your teacher recommendation, one of the things we always say in our admissions committee is, can the student do the work? And the teacher lets us know, will you do that work? It'll be a teacher typically from your junior year. Pick a teacher that knows you, that likes you, and meet the deadline on that. I know that was on one of the things. I remember a student wrote his letter of recommendation. The teacher said, Johnny's fantastic, but as you can see, he's not good at meeting deadlines. And he sent me the screenshot of asking for that letter of recommendation on October 30th. The deadline was November 1st. One of my favorite letters of recommendation was, this was my second year, it was from a student who was art theater major, and her lower grades were in math. They were B's, they were fine, but they were lower. And I remember the teacher letter of recognition said, "I bet you're surprised me reading this from me." And I thought, yes, actually I am. And he went on to say how hard she worked to get those grades with extra credit and study sessions. Imagine how hard she's going to work on your campus when she's picking the classes she's interested in. And it spoke volumes. So think about that when you're thinking about the teachers. I've read the letters of recommendation from the teachers here. They are fantastic. When you think about test optional, it's a bad analogy, but it's the one I got. Maybe it's just because I'm hungry, but I use it as your application as pizza, right? So all those slices, letters of recommendation, transcripts, test optional, essay, extracurriculars. Well, with test optional, if I take out a slice, I can't hand you a pizza with one less slice. So everything else just becomes a little bit more important. Transcript becomes more important. Your essay becomes a little bit more important. Your essay, take your time with it. I know you guys have some summer workshops. Take advantage of it. One of my favorite resources is the college essay guy. Ethan Sawyer has some fantastic free stuff. That's the last thing I read on your application. So I'll look at your letters of recommendation, transcript, test scores, but the last thing I want to hear is your words to me. So just take your time with it. Most of the essays are fine. Few are terrible. The record is six sentences. That's what he sent us. So we asked for a different sample. That was not enough. Yeah. Questions? Questions? Is this helpful? Okay. And with the activities, one of the things I always caution students, it's not what you do, it's that you do something. We're not looking for you to have cured the world over 10 times over and been the president of 15 clubs. We want to see that you're doing things. So whatever you're doing, make sure you elaborate on it. So it's not just band, it's not just debate, it's not just theater, but all the little things that you've done. If you have a job, babysat. We have a 12 and 9-year-old. If someone's having you babysit their kids, if you're ever in Dallas, please come. Let me help. What else? Questions for either of us? Applications a year. This year will probably be about 11,000 applications. And that's, for us, that we've had a steady growth of about 10 to 15% each year. And we're still reading every single one of them. And so the way it works at a school like us is there's about 10 of us that will present the application to the admissions committee. So one of the other things I highly recommend, any school that offers admissions interviews, take advantage of it. It's about a 30-minute conversation, a lot like this, except you all are talking more. And we get to learn about you. Sometimes, usually it's September, October, you'll have hundreds of colleges coming through these doors. If they offer them then, take advantage of it. There'll be some virtual ones too. If you're scared, don't be. We're really good at talking to strangers. If you're really nervous, pick a school you don't want to go to and practice with them. Just not Trinity. No, I'm kidding. We're here to learn more about you. So please take advantage of that. Whether it's an alum or admissions, it's a common thing at some of the selective universities, so take advantage of it. Not every school has them. Do y'all do admissions interviews?
We do not do admissions.
Okay.
Also, do you want to say that I do not personally read applications? I want to point that out. Our admissions office does do that. I'm kind of the middle person communicating from them to you and you to them. So, again, like I said earlier, always here to help, but I don't physically read them. But I can offer some advice here and there, though. If you're wondering, should I submit these test scores? What does this essay need to look like? Those are all questions I can help answer.
don't expect you all to be an expert on our websites, and I will never say go look on the website. We will send you links to things and find those things if you want to know how advanced classes transfer or mental health help on campus, what that looks like. We can help do that. That's our job, to facilitate that. Two things that I think will also help you be organized in this process: create a Google sheet that has every school that you're interested in and the us there with that school. All of us colleges have a us with the Meet the Admissions Counselor. You'll see our smiling faces. I think mine had more hair when it was taken, but
It looks rough. My picture's not great. Remember me this way?
but we want you to get to know who we are, right? Our email, our cell phone. I mean, the cell phone on my business card is the same number my mom has. Like, we want you to be able to get the answers to the questions when you have them. The other one, students, this is for you. You're going to create a Google Doc. On the top, it's going to say everything I want colleges to know about me. And you're going to start writing all the things you want us to know about you. When it's time to hit submit, sometime into the summer and early fall, we're going to come back and visit this and make sure what's on that sheet is somewhere in your application. Is it about your essay? I don't know. Is it told in your letters of recommendation? I don't know. Is it the list of your activities or your resume? I don't know, but we have plenty of time to figure that out. This is not the application that you wake up on, again, October 25th and say, oh no, that's due next week. And you all are at a great advantage by being here today. And I'm not saying this just because she's in the room. You have literally one of the best counselors on the planet. I've been doing this for a long time, and she was actually part of my training trip, which I wish was recorded because it must have been humiliating. But she's been on hundreds of college campuses. So when she says, hey, this would be a good school, you're not allowed to say, I've never heard of it. All right? I promise whatever person who's hiring you has heard of the schools that are on their list, whatever it is. Lewis and Clark, Cal Lutheran, Rollins, Furman. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? What's that? Rollins, yeah. Is that where you went? I almost went there. Yeah. That's a great question. One of the things that we've talked a lot about this, that all of the colleges, and I don't say this to be comforting, but to be honest, that we're all going to be similar and different enough just to be annoying. And I mean that especially with the test optional part, because what I'm saying today for some schools may actually change July 1st. I always encourage students to take the SAT and ACT, and whichever one you like better, take it one more time. And I get students, I'm not the one taking it, I'm telling you to take a test 3 times, which is crazy. But with the super scoring, so taking the best sub scores and creating a super score, it can't hurt to try it. So test optional, what expedited it was literally COVID. There were students, I remember from Oklahoma, I remember her vividly, I said, how was the test? She said, I couldn't go, I got there, and there was a car parked, and in the windshield said testing center closed. So we all had to pivot quickly to what this looks like. Test optional is not a new thing. It's been around for plenty of years before COVID. What we have done, and some schools have done, we did a 3-year test pilot of no test scores. Without test scores and just GPA, what's that success rate look on our campus? Because a 4.0, as we've learned, 4.0s at different schools can mean different things. And we're not comparing 4.0s here to a large public school in Texas. And I say that because some of the schools in Texas, you can have up to 17 advanced classes, full IB curriculum and things like that. I don't expect 17 advanced classes from here. So please don't go knocking on doors, signing up for, that's not what I'm saying. So do I think if a student isn't submitting test scores that they're hiding a bad score? No. And I think that's one of the big questions, that it wasn't a good score. What I've seen is, and my colleague said this really well, that if you have a 4.0, all A's, right? So anything less than a 36 on the ACT only brings that down. So if you have a 33 and a 4.0, that may hurt you. Now, I've also seen a 2.5 with a 35 ACT. That tells me that you know how to work hard for one Saturday. Does that make sense, right? So I think that there's, and again, every school will do it a little bit different like that. And that's where where I talked about that Google sheet, that's where it becomes important of, are they test optional, yes or no, and what does that mean for each score? Because the other thing I'm going to put on there, I'm sorry for adding vocabulary, but is the test blind. Because test optional means we don't need a test score to be considered for admissions and that. We are not test blind, meaning if somewhere on your application you put a 12 ACT, I can't unsee that. Does that make sense? So that's another box I would have, are schools test blind. Yeah. What I say is, and I'll use Trinity specifically, right? If I had a 24, I don't know if I probably wouldn't send it. If I had a 36, I would call my mom and then I would send it, right? And if I had anything else, I would call me. And I should be able to help guide you the best way through that. Now, what's true for Trinity probably won't be true for Rollins, so I wouldn't want to speak for them, but that counselor should be able to help you.
And I was also going to say, like, if you have a question on, you're thinking, should I send this? Is this score what we're going to need it to be? Definitely give me a call. Because, every year it's going to change a little bit, depending on what your grades look like, what does your essay look like. Is this going to help us for scholarships, or are we just kind of putting it here because we took it? And I think that those are all good questions to ask kind of once we get a little bit closer to it. Because, again, every student's different, and we look at every student as an individual. I know at OSU we do have some assured admission criteria, so if you meet those criteria, you are admitted. Some of that is test score based. But, we do judge students individually, so we don't have a minimum GPA requirement either, which is a great thing. It's also a little bit tough sometimes, because I get asked, well, what's the bare minimum GPA I need, and I don't have an answer. And so that's kind of where those one-on-one conversations happen quite often.
And some schools will just say, send us everything, we'll do the most advantageous for the student. I wish we don't, but my boss isn't watching. Yeah. The ways it would come up when I say it can't be unseen is sometimes a student may they may put it on their common application at some point that would populate. They may write about it in their essay that for whatever reason, the reason why I got the 12 is because I didn't have my calculator, my pencil broke, and whatever, right? So there would be a way that it would populate that we wouldn't see it. Some schools maybe black out everything that comes in. I don't know how other schools would do that. No. Yeah. 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 On there. Yeah. Done the transfer. And and how the school will take the test score. So for Trinity, for example, it needs to be either officially from College Board or ACT, or the student can go into their portal, which you get the email for, and set that up, and you can self-report your test score. We do not take it straight off the Common Application, even if it's there. This past summer, I probably went through about 200 incomplete applications that would have been completed had they read their email and realized it applied to them and actually put it in their test scores. So our stuff, our software, while we're inviting all of you to visit, is hyper-specific of what you are missing. So when you get the, oh, well, my test scores are on my Common Application, I don't need to worry about that. No, we really don't have it. And our portals, you can log in, there's a big green check mark of things we haven't and a big red X of things you're missing. So it's easy to see what it is.
I would say the most important things, as you mentioned earlier, are definitely check your email. Definitely keep an eye on that checklist, either green check marks or red X's. And then reach out to us if you have any questions about anything. That can be anything from the application to where's the scholarship I should qualify for, I don't see it, to what is Stillwater like, where am I going to live? I mean, any of those questions are great questions. And as you also mentioned earlier, we all do have some wonderful counselors here. I work with a lot of counselors, a lot. This is absolutely the best that it gets. So take it full advantage of that. I get phone calls from them all the time. Students sitting in their office. Do you know what this means? Absolutely. Or absolutely not. Let me make a call and let me call you back. Sometimes I have to do that, but we are always here to help, always happy to help.
Do we have another question? Was there? Yeah. Cost of attendance.
That's actually a great question. So, you know, everybody's situation is a little bit different. Every family is a little bit different, and so I have a lot of different conversations. I have a lot of different conversations just kind of based on what that family dynamic looks like. And so I would say, you know, I would always encourage students and families, if they're able, to schedule a meeting with myself, with Brad, with our financial aid people, with anybody, because we want you to have a full understanding of everything before you step foot on campus, because we do know that it is a good size financial commitment to get an education, and I don't want to in any way feel like anybody's ever hiding that from anybody, but we want to give you all the information we can. We want to find you all the scholarships and grants and all those fun things we can before we move on to you know, out of pocket or additional funding or anything else. But definitely want to have those one-on-one meetings, because everybody is just a little bit different with that.
It's a hard process with the timing of everything. And I get our sticker price right now is $68,000. And I think there's 4 people on campus paying that, right? Because of the merit scholarship and need-based aid. But we don't know that till about this time your senior year. So you get admitted, or November 1st is the deadline. You find out December 15th, admissions and merit scholarship. And then need-based aid, you're filling out October 1st. It'll be so much easier for you all. October 1st, and then you'll know that by end of January, early February, and then making that decision. Every school by law has something called the net price calculator, NET, like basketball net price calculator. We all have it somewhere on our website. I use a little search engine on the top right and type it in. Everyone will ask different quantity of questions. Some ask 7, some ask 3 pages of questions. I've been on a couple, that's why when I'm speaking about this, the one with 7 pages, I'm not doing this, I'll just talk about it. But it'll at least give you an idea of what you may expect to pay based on your students' test scores, GPA, family financial situation. You can have an idea of what that would be. You know, the FAFSA change. It used to be the EFC, Estimated Family Contribution. Now it's Student Aid Index, SAI. And as I've heard our financial aid office speak, that number tells, it's a federal equation, tells us the ability for a family to contribute to the student's college education. That's a different word than willingness. And back to that family contribution, that's where we need to talk about. There's a financial aid office. I was like, it's true. And that's where that conversation comes of what does this actually look like? And that's where about this time senior year, any one of our financial aid offices will talk you through exactly what that would cost for our schools. So you would know monthly payment plans. You would know what it would look like graduation, you know, with paying off debt so often, you know, after graduation. But knowing And again, talking about different schools, it will vary immensely. Does that help a little bit? I know, again, that's where I go to that, just to at least know timeline of it. And know that any financial aid office can help you with the FAFSA, or schools like us have called the CSS profile. So another College Board thing, they're slowly taking over the world, them and Google. But another form you'd fill out that helps with institutional resources. We're very fortunate in Trinity, our endowment's over $1.7 billion. So we'll use that for financial aid, for faculty, and for facilities on campus. So we want to make sure those that need the funding are getting the funding. Does that help a little bit? Test optional, there's something else.
So I think this is my last thing. Please feel free to call us. I know I keep saying that, but if our phones are quiet, we can't be helping anybody. And so, if you have a question, and even if you think I feel like I should know the answer to this, trust me, I get questions all the time that I'm like, well, I heard this one earlier today, but it's super helpful. We're going to do it, and it's going to be awesome. And so, getting to have those conversations on the phone, in person, at a Starbucks up the way, in Miss Lawler's office, wherever that needs to happen, we can make it happen.
And those questions will evolve over time, right? So the students who are admitted now don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from current students and faculty. I'm not offended. That's part of this kind of rhythm of everything.
You can actually ask some of the teachers, like later on in the spring. What most of them will tell the students is, come back and see me at the beginning of the school year. And we do strongly encourage you, if you are a student applying to schools that require letters of recommendation, like Brad said, and I have seen this in the score counts, where a student will go to a teacher and ask October 27th for a November 1st deadline. Let me be the first to tell you, you do not want a letter of recommendation from a teacher who had to write that letter between October 27th and November 1st, because that's not going to be his or her best work. They want time to write a good letter of recommendation. So ask them earlier. Most of them, like I said, beginning of the school year, that is plenty of time. Make sure you send them the link so that they can upload their letter of recommendation into the SCORE program. Okay? And then we send all of the letters of recommendation and the transcripts and the test scores, if test scores are going, through the SCORE program. Okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to our portion. We just want you to ask all the questions of Andrew and Brad while we have a captive audience.
I can unhear it. I can't unsee it, right? And I mean that honestly, right? But I'd also, and I really think you get a 12 just by putting your name on the sheet, right? And so I'm going to use the 10 as the analogy. That my question for the 10 would be, are you prepared for us? Maybe it's a transfer or something like that, but just to know that, yeah. But unsee and unhear, usually, we're here to help. I'm not trying to, got you. Does that make sense? So and I would say this, students. So there are several times our admissions committee meets, usually November, and now it'll be kind of March-ish. If a university is calling you, make sure I can leave a message. I can't tell you how many times voice boxes are full or it's not set up, because we'll say, well, something happened junior year. Can we talk to them and find out what happened? I don't know. Let me give them a call. And call Maureen. She'll say, hey, students right here, give them a call. And I call them, and then nothing. I'm like, well, what happened? I don't know. They didn't answer their phone, and I can't leave them a message. And I get my area code is 602. That's Arizona. You're probably not answering it the first time. Call me back. And the other thing I'm going to say, students, please speak in our language as professionals and adults. and I mean this sincerely. There was a student last year who I helped with scholarship, and we were able to help with a little bit more money, and I was like, left her, hey, this is great, we're able to do this, and I sent her a text, because we were texting back and forth, and she texts back, bet. I don't speak like that, I don't say that, I had to ask my friends what that meant, so please use, not emojis, I'm getting the giggles, you all know what, yeah, so please just understand there are adults behind the texting, they're not bots. Yeah, that was a fun one.
I will also say, just as far as the test optional, just because it just popped in my head again, you can, if you are test optional and you're applying to Oklahoma State, you can apply as test optional and send us that test score anyway. We are not going to use it for admissions, but we will for scholarships. I don't love the term test blind because I feel like as soon as I use it, they're going to change that rule, and I'm going to feel real bad. So I'm not going to say that, but we're not going to use it for admissions. But if you do have that question, then definitely give me a call. Every once in a while, we do have, we have an optional essay component. From time to time, it does become mandatory if the GPA looks a certain way, if those test scores look a certain way. You'll get an email that says, hey, we need you to go ahead and write that essay for us. That way we have a little bit more to go on. I usually reach out to those students as well, or, if you would just go as test optional, we can admit you because we're not reviewing it, but we could. We're going to get all that information to you as well. You'll get a bunch of messages from OSU. Unless it has my name specifically attached to it, I promise I'm not sending it to you. You're going to get a lot of mail, a lot of emails. If it's a text message, it's probably me. If it's an email, it might be. But just bear with us in the email stuff. I know it is a lot. So definitely helpful stuff. Yes, sir.
Are you all covering like early action, early decision? Yeah. I just want to say one thing about again, with the vocabulary. Early action is applying to the universities in a early round, and they're going to cover that later. I highly recommend early action to schools that offer it. So our regular decision, and I'm thinking of Brad sitting in the back there. Well, I'm not early. That was Zach. That was Aaron. They were the smart ones that should go. I'm just regular. I'll go regular decision. I would not go regular unless there was a reason why, then your counselor speaks about that you're going to, there was a blip second semester junior year and we want to see first semester senior year grades, or we're thinking about testing again. But that early action, that's just finding out early. Early decision is the binding one. So think of that as early commitment. Students and families, you cannot apply to a school accidentally early decision. There is a form that needs to be signed by a family member, you, and the counselor. So even though students click it, it doesn't count, and parents, you don't need to worry because it's not official till that form is signed and we have it. And one of the things that we colleges are doing a better job of the early decision, our acceptance rates higher, yeah, but also the hard part is the financial component. We don't know what it's going to cost to come to the school. We, Trinity and other schools are doing this as offering an early financial estimate. So you can see, well, I don't know if I want to go early decision. Trinity, you can click on this button. 2 weeks later, you'll know what your merit scholarship would be and need-based financial aid would be. And we're not the only one that does that. I don't know everyone that does it. Again, back to that, all being different enough to be annoying, but at least that gives you some sort of context for that. But early action, I highly recommend. If there is a blip on your transcript, tell us. Please don't let us get creative and come up with a reason why that happened. There was a student a couple years ago, so COVID was during her sophomore years. All A's, sophomore year hit, all C's, junior year, all A's. I was like, what happened? And talked to her counselor, because we know each other well. It wasn't here, but we know counselors well. And she goes, yeah, COVID was a real thing. So we had an admissions interview because I knew the admissions committee was going to ask about it, and it was fantastic. She was admitted to Trinity. She didn't come, but we're trying to advocate for you. No matter what our titles are, we are admissions counselors, and we take both of that very seriously, helping you with it and counseling you through this process. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I don't know how much time I have. Also, our goal, at least my goal myself, is not necessarily to get you or your student to come to OSU. My goal is to give you all the great information about OSU, why OSU is so wonderful and all those things. But ultimately, we want you to be where you're most comfortable. And if that's not in Stillwater, Oklahoma, that is okay. That is not going to hurt my feelings, anything like that. We're here to help. And so that's super important. Also, with early action, early decision, we do not do those things. We are rolling admissions basis. So when our application opens up on July 1st, I can probably have you an admissions decision by August 1st. You can know, which is great. It also tends to have a way of having students put it off until January, or I had 30 students admitted last week, and we are almost done. So earlier rather than later would be awesome. July 1st is our opening. August 1st is the Common App opening. If you're thinking about applying to a bunch of different schools, August 1st is your date. If you're saying I'm going to OSU, July 1st is your date, and so that's just something important to remember as well. November 1st is our first deadline for priority scholarships, so sometime between July 1st and November 1st. That is the best possible window. After that, we would still love to have you, but it's going to be a little bit tighter of a timeline after that. Okay. That's it. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody? Do you want to answer that one? Would you like to discuss the Common App? This is your one slightly out of my realm.
We will discuss that in the next part of the presentation. Any other questions for Brad and Andrew? Then we'd like to thank Brad and Andrew for giving up their evening and coming and speaking with. This is why we rely on our college reps, because they're willing to come and speak with you, and they have specific knowledge that we don't. So we're always grateful when they are willing to come and help us, and they will answer your questions whenever you have them. They answer mine all the time. It's up to you guys. You're welcome to stay or leave, whatever you want.
If there's questions after, I can stay. We'll stay after.
Okay, go ahead. We'll go ahead and start. Okay. Okay. In case some of you didn't know, we actually moved, and so we are now in what used to be the chaplain's office in the main building. So all of the counselors are together. Mrs. Knapp and I shared what used to be Father Zui's office. So that's where you can locate us. Okay. Everybody's favorite topic, testing. Okay, so you all know, Bishop Kelly will be administering the SAT on April the 23rd. That is what is referred to as the school day exam. So while the seniors are off having their communion breakfast, the other three classes will be testing. The juniors will be taking the SAT, and you don't have to do anything because it is school day testing. They will register through us. All of the tests now, including the SAT, are digital. Okay, so they will be using their Chromebooks. And we will send out reminders that Chromebooks must be charged. Sorry. The rest of the test dates on there, March 9th, May 4th, those are SAT tests offered on national test dates. And they also will be digital. So if a student is going to take another SAT, they will be taking a digital test. Okay? The ACT test is also offered on national test dates. Now, the ACT, you have a choice. You can register to take it digitally, or you can take the paper-based test. If you test at Bishop Kelly, we are paper-based. And the reason for that is that ACT says the test center has to provide the computers and all that kind of stuff, and we don't have that ability to do so. So we will always be paper-based, and there is no indication that ACT is going solely digital. Okay? You can register to take the ACT at myact.org, and I'm not exactly sure, besides Bishop Kelly, I believe TU and Jenks and Broken Arrow, I'm not sure who else is a test center. Some test centers were closed. You have a question on that? ACT is not being offered on a school day here at Bishop Kelly, no. It is provided by BK on the national test date, but not on a school day test date. Okay, and we also reference test optional and test blind. And the big thing with test optional is, as I said, applications will ask if they are a test optional school, if you are applying test optional, or with test scores. That is very important, as I said, okay, because schools will not read applications if you say test scores and they don't have the test scores. Okay? Test blind, that basically means you can send your test scores, but the school is not using the test scores. Okay?
Okay, I have something to add about the SAT and College Board. A couple of weeks ago, I had a student trying to get their PSAT scores, and they had 4 different College Board accounts. They have to call College Board and have those merged. So please, students, log into your College Board and make sure you have one account, okay? Because if you only have one account, this won't be an issue. But if you have 2, 3, and 4, it may cause problems. So please, when you're working on that, come see us and we'll do the best we can to help. Okay? Yes. Yes, that is correct. School day SAT. Miss Lawler?
We can't force anyone to show up on that test date, but I will tell you that it would count as an absence because it is a school day. So in that case, it goes to their 4x4 or 4x4. That's the only thing. No, I mean, we can't force anyone to do it. We would like, but if they don't, no. Just know that it is an absence. Okay. That depends on the school. Like with our state schools, you can, like, we call Andrew and say, Andrew, so-and-so is switching from test optional to they got a really great test score they want to send. So every school is different, and it also depends on the deadline you're applying under. If it's like an early deadline, you may not be able to switch. Okay, and also understand, like Brad alluded to, test scores are used for admission, scholarship, and the third thing, and this is predominantly like the Oklahoma schools, it is also used for placement. So you can apply test optional, be admitted test optional, get scholarships test optional, but you may still have to submit a test score for placement purposes. Has nothing to do with your admission. Like if you get a 12 on your ACT, they're not yanking your acceptance. It's only used for placement into generally math and English classes. Okay? And they will also use a reading score to make sure that you're not overloaded on reading classes. All right? The University of Arkansas, their legislators say we want a test score. Well, Arkansas has never taken anybody's acceptance away. You still have to send a test score. They don't even really use it for placement. Now, one thing I will tell you about Arkansas, if your GPA is not a 3.25 or higher, you will be sending test scores to Arkansas. That's a whole nother ballgame. Okay. Bishop Kelly uses the SCORE program. And even though it's spelled S-C-O-I-R, it is pronounced SCORE. It's Gaelic. Don't ask me what it means. I've been told, but I can't remember. I admit I'm getting old. Okay. Every document goes through the SCORE program. That means transcripts, letters of recommendation, test scores, if they are submitted. Okay? The reason that we use SCORE is because SCORE has lots of different things with it, but the best part is that in SCORE, we see when the documents get there. If your student comes in and says, Miss Lawler, so-and-so tells me that they don't have my transcript, I can go back in and look, and I can resend the transcript. Versus Common Application, which we will talk about, we can't resubmit through Common Application. Common Application, it can only go one time. SCORE, it can go multiple times. And if it has to go multiple times, there's a problem somewhere. And we can get a hold of the people at SCORE and find out what's going on a lot faster than we can Common Application. There are exceptions to using SCORE. There are about 4 or 5 schools on the Common Application that do not accept documents from SCORE. They have to go through Common App. We know they have to go through Common App, but we still have everything set up in SCORE. Okay? If you are looking at Texas A&M, we know that it's going to go through Common App, not SCORE. Okay? There are Oklahoma schools, basically the regional schools. NSU does not accept transcripts through SCORE. They don't use Common App. So we also have a program called Parchment. And any student that is going to apply to like NSU, East Central, be using Parchment to send transcripts. We will show them exactly what they need to do, and in their Bishop Kelly email, they have a link to set up their Parchment account, and we will help them with that. Okay? But we predominantly use the SCORE program. One of the big things that we need parents to do is, and students, you need to invite your parents to have access to your SCORE account, because we have to have permission to send documents to colleges. So if you are not 18, you have to invite your parent, and you basically input their email address, and one of the first things they will do when they get the invite is they will sign off on what is referred to as FERPA. FERPA is this nice little federal law that says Bishop Kelly has permission to release documents, letters of recommendation, test scores, and transcripts to colleges. It is a one and done thing on SCORE. You're not having to do it every time you apply to college, you do it one time. Okay? So make sure you invite your parents. There is nothing in your SCORE account that your parents can't see elsewhere. We just put it all together. Your GPA, your test scores, it's all right there. Okay? So we have to have parental permission, and we ask that if you have activated your SCORE account, and most juniors have, that you get your parents to sign off on this. Because the biggest holdup in the fall is I can't send transcripts, Mrs. Knapp can't send transcripts without that FERPA being signed. At the beginning of the school year, Mrs. Knapp will send a how-to so that everyone knows how to link their applications to their SCORE account and everything that they need to do. But SCORE is very easy. I'm the most tech illiterate person going, and I even know how to work SCORE and have no problem with it. Okay? So we please ask students to use the SCORE program. You can actually start using it now. There's a college search program in there. There's a career program. If you have no idea what you want to do, you can go and do the career program. You can put colleges in there that you are interested in under, in the My Colleges, you can say, I'm interested in, or I'm following such and such schools. And schools will know that, so that when we can look at that and say, okay, well, Trinity's coming, so Addison's interested in Trinity, so I'm going to let Addison know that Trinity is coming. Okay? That's how we can get the word out for the schools at Bishop Kelly and to the students to let them know that those schools are coming. Any questions on SCORE? Like I said, there'll be more in depth on that. Okay. All right.
So a question came up earlier about Common App. I've decided to hold a workshop at the beginning of the school year in August to go over with you and students on how to do the Common App. I can create a kind of a mock account and take you step by step through that. It'll be much like this. I'll have a sign-up program where you can come in. However, if you're going to apply to state schools, we highly encourage you to use the school website. And the reason is because sometimes those schools do not really look at all of the necessary items that the Common App has. Yes, in general, it takes away some of the time, but it also adds more stress on essays and all this other stuff that the Common App requires. Okay, so that's why we encourage students to use the school website for in-state or surrounding area schools. There is you can use SCORE with some schools for application purposes, which just kind of makes it easier, but there are different ways, different avenues for applying to schools. I also had a question up raised today. I had a student not know their social security number. Parents, you don't give them their card, but please, students, start memorizing that number because you're going to have them when you start applying to colleges. Also know your mailing address and your zip code. That was another thing that came up. And know your parents' contact information, so when you start applying, you don't have to text them if you're in my office trying to get that information and that application complete. Any questions on that? Yeah, hit the space bar. Ms. Lawler already said this about SCORE transcripts. We will send documents through SCORE unless there are certain situations like Texas schools, some California schools that I think Iowa State or Illinois State, something doesn't want to use SCORE. They have to use Common App. We will do it for that purpose. Again, I want to say, I think this is the third time, no one can see your information in SCORE except for your counselors, your parents, and you. Your GPA is on there, your test scores are on there. They don't see, schools will not see that information until it is sent to them with the documents. Questions on that? Test scores. Yes, you can. You can tell us if you want your SAT sent, not your ACT, or vice versa. Absolutely. The SAT, because they super score, it's going to show whatever that score is on that test date. So yes, you can do that. We do not have to send both. Any other questions? Okay, letters, also back to SCORE. I will send out that walkthrough to parents and students probably in the next week or so, and then I will continue to kind of push it about every month. And then if we come back in August and somebody hasn't had invited their parent, or if FERPA isn't signed, we will start harassing you a little bit more, okay? For letters of recommendation, another thing that I mentioned early in the school year, I put out a table. If you have a deadline for October 15th, you should ask your teacher, your counselor, about a month before. That gives them about a 30-day notice to write those letters. And it gives them time to kind of process. It gives you time not to stress about it. If it gets close to that deadline and the teacher is hasn't submitted it through SCORE or whatever, we will all work together to get that completed. Okay. Any questions on letters of rec? Yes. So the question is, should you ask for multiple recommendation letters from one person for multiple purposes? No. The teachers can write a general recommendation letter, and if it is like for a school compared to a scholarship, the teacher can go in and manipulate the wording just a little bit for that scholarship. So there are potential for like some schools to have like school specific. You can write a letter for school specifics. Let me restate. But general is kind of what we push. Yeah. Any other questions? Early decision. The last slide will go over the different types of admissions. Early decision, Brad mentioned this earlier. This is a binding contract with the school that you will go there. You have to sign it, your parent has to sign it, your counselor has to sign it. We will call you in and ask you, did you read the contract? Because within that contract, it may say, you have to accept us even if you can't, like, if we cannot meet certain things. There might be legal jargon, I guess, to help me here. Trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. Early decision contracts makes it to where you will go to that school no matter the case. That is the school you're going to go to. Even if financial aid, if they can find the financial aid for you, then there might be some buffer, but you have to read that contract. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
We're not going to come to your house and drag you and saying you can't, don't want to pay like that.
Right.
But it is, yeah. And you can only go early decision to one school, and
Yes.
that has happened in my time. There was a year where they went early decision to 2 schools, and the admissions was rescinded from both schools.
And if that school accepts you, then you have to decline all of those other applications that you've put out there. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. Man. Go ahead and press the button. Okay. Apply early. I think this was stated earlier. Again, July 1st, OSU opens. A few other schools. August 1st, Common App opens. A lot of with other schools. Do not wait around until November 1st at 11:59 or October 31st, 11:59 to turn in that application, because there are schools out there that have seen an increase in applications. And those applications, the earlier the better, because they're going to start making those decisions early. And if you wait to the end, I have seen kids with the right GPA, the right test scores get waitlisted because they did not get their stuff in early. Yes. So that's when the applications open. The application deadlines are November 1st. Some are October 15th. So if your deadline is October 15th, ask for those recommendation letters. Most likely your teachers are going to have them early. It's just in my head 30 days is a good time. Ask early. Absolutely. Anything I'm missing here?
It tends to be your junior year teacher too. So we wouldn't expect a letter of recommendation from the senior year teacher who's seen you for 3 weeks.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Do you want to explain the Texas and the University or the Virginia system?
So you all understand, some of the nicest rejection letters I've ever read have come from some of these schools. And what you need to understand is this. In the state of Texas, with the public institutions, you are up against what was originally the Texas 10% rule. It is now down to 7%, and we believe next year it will go to 6%. And basically that rule states it is the result of a lawsuit. And that rule states that in the state of Texas, and Brad, you can correct me on this, if you are in the top 6%, 7% currently of a graduating class from a Texas school, then theoretically you are automatically admissible to the public institutions in Texas. And you will note that I use the term theoretically, because everybody in Texas wants to go to A&M and UT. Well, the bad news is, when you look at the number of high schools in Texas and the size of quite a few of those high schools, UT and A&M cannot take the top 7% of every high school. So That is what a student is up against. It does not mean that a Bishop Kelly student has to be in the top 7%. It just means that at those universities, it is very competitive, and certain programs within those universities are extremely competitive. So you always have to have a plan B for schools like Texas A&M and the University of Texas. By law, North Carolina is only permitted to accept 18% of the students out of state. Therefore, UNC Chapel Hill, which is generally the one that most out-of-state students want to attend, can only take 18% from the other, basically 49 states, and internationally also. Okay, so this is what you are up against. And yes, we do understand the number of high school students is declining, but the problem is the applicant pools at these schools are not declining. They just keep increasing. Okay, so that is why it is very difficult to get into those schools. Do we tell a student not to apply there? Good Lord, no. We've had students get accepted. We actually do better, I'm not going to lie to you, we do better with A&M than we do with UT Austin. Okay? And I'm not picking one over the other because Texas isn't my state. But you do need to understand, and that's why we will always tell a student, you need a plan A and a plan B. I will never tell anyone not to apply to their school. But understand, this is what you are up against. Okay? California, their legislators came down on the state of California and said, you will take more in-state students. And the reason that, if you can figure it out, that the out-of-state publics want the out-of-state students is because as a public university, they can charge more money to an out-of-state student. Okay? So that is why we are saying have choices that you are happy with. Okay? Arkansas has probably been the biggest one that we've seen in the last 2 years, where we have actually had students who have had 3.6 GPAs, but because they waited until December and January to apply, they were waitlisted. Okay? Arkansas is like the hot school. Unfortunately, their growth has been so big that they don't have the residence halls and they don't have the courses to admit every student who applies. So students who normally would have gotten into those schools from Bishop Kelly and a lot of other schools, we're not talking just Bishop Kelly, we're talking privates and we're talking publics, because counselors, we talk. Their students are being waitlisted or denied. Okay? That's why we say apply early. If you apply early to a school like Arkansas, okay, Arkansas does not require any letters of recommendation. Their application opens July 15th. We will tell students, apply at that point in time. Keep in mind, you are not committing yourself to going, unless you're applying early decision, you're not committing yourself to going to a school until theoretically May 1st of your senior year. So get your applications in. Oh. Well, Arkansas falls into that category. And there are some other schools. There are some Texas schools, but no, it is not A&M and UT Austin. It is like North Texas, University of Texas at Dallas, I believe UT Arlington, Texas Tech. Those are the ones off the top of my head where there is what the Texas schools, it is referred to as basically the Oklahoma rate, because there's the Texas rate, then the rate of Oklahoma and a couple of the states that touch Texas, and then the rate that everybody else pays. Arkansas, it is the surrounding states, and Oklahoma is one of them. And those are questions you can ask. We know that it doesn't apply to Oklahoma students, but we know, like with the Dakotas, North and South, and a couple of states up in that area, They all work together. So there's no harm in asking, but we do know that it does not apply to A&M and UT Austin. Okay. These are the different types of admission that we have referred to. And as you will see, regular decision is just, they have a decision that is usually anywhere from January through March. You submit your application, and you will find out usually late March, April, that you have been admitted or not. Rolling admission, like Andrew said, is OSU. And OSU, when they really get ramped up, I can guarantee you that it doesn't take a month to get a decision from OSU. We'll have students who have decisions within a week, sometimes less. The closer you get to their scholarship deadlines, the longer it will take them to get a decision. But they are one of the quickest schools at replying. KU is another one that replies quickly. Okay? Early action. Early action says, Notre Dame is a school that I'm really interested in. I want to really go there, so I'm going to apply early to Notre Dame. November 1st deadline, find out by Christmas. Congratulations, you have been admitted to Notre Dame, but you don't have to tell Notre Dame you're coming there until May 1st, and you can still look at other schools, okay? Gives you time to weigh all of your options. Early decision is exactly what we have said. It is a binding contract, and you get out of it basically if you don't receive the financial assistance that you need to attend, and that is a discussion between you and the school. Restrictive early action, there are very few restrictive early actions, but basically what that means is you can apply to one school early, and you're not committing to go there. It's just, for whatever reason, the particular school wants an idea of what its population may look like. And a school will tell you if they are restrictive, and I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I think it is one of the Ivies. Most schools are not restrictive early action anymore. Most of them are early action. And you can apply to as many schools early action, or what they refer to as EA. You're going to hear these terms, EA and ED. You can apply to as many schools as you want EA. Okay? But please keep in mind, deadlines are important, because not only is the deadline important for admission, but it is also important, like in OSU's case, when they start throwing out the housing contracts and the enrollment information. Okay, like I tell some of our seniors, do you really want to wait to enroll in classes in July when pretty much the rest of the freshman class is enrolled in classes? And guess what? You get that 8 o'clock in the morning class on a Monday morning. Yeah, get all that stuff done early. Makes your life so much easier, and makes parents happy too, because students tend to go to class when they've selected the class times that they want, as opposed to being forced to go really early in the morning. As a non-morning person, I speak from experience. Okay. Any questions on anything that we've started? We will be, in fact, we are working on setting up our calendars for individual meetings with the students and parents, and that will go out this weekend in the newsletter. So anyone who wants to sign up and meet with us as a family, you are welcome. Any junior who wants to come in at any point in time, all you need to do is send an email or drop by our office and say, I'd like to schedule a time to come and talk with you. But please know that you are welcome. Also know that colleges are starting to schedule for spring visits, and we do strongly encourage you to sign up and meet with the colleges. Most of the time, the rep who is coming to Bishop Kelly is the rep for Bishop Kelly, so they will be the one to answer your questions. We will also have, it's referred to as the DARN, which is Dallas Area Regional Network, and that is, if you haven't figured it out, there's a whole lot of college reps that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area from all over the country. And they will do what they call a swing, and they are coming to Bishop Kelly. I can't remember the date, but we will put it out, and it will be open to all of the juniors and basically any of the younger classes that the teachers will allow the students to come to. So keep an eye out in the newsletter. Mrs. Knapp has started a newsletter that is solely for the juniors, separated it from the senior newsletter. So please continue to look at that. And we cannot emphasize enough, read the emails, start looking at the scholarships, because you may not be able to apply for the scholarships now, but that date will change from, say, April 1st, 2024 to April 1st, 2025, and you can apply for those. We will have a financial aid meeting. It will be much earlier next year because the FAFSA should go back to normal. At least that's what they tell us. And so we schedule and we bring in a financial aid person to speak with you about the financial aid process. That is not an area that I like to answer questions because I know enough to be dangerous. And that is something that's very important, because if your dream school is a Trinity, you need to make sure you get everything completed correctly the first time through. So we bring in the experts. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, we are finished.
I forgot to say this earlier, and students, I get your lives are not 9 to 5, and our jobs are technically 9 to 5. That's why the email becomes so important for us to communicate with you. And we have no problems talking to family members. This is a family decision. So talking to you all at noon or 2 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, that's totally fine. So just know that we would want to know from the student or hear from the student, but we're all here to help you with it.